Well, we go again. Can the Browns get their first win since I started my channel?
A few moments later.
Go on, get it, get it, get it, get it. Oh. Well, 1-5. 1-5. What is wrong with this team? Why do you enjoy bringing me so much pain every Sunday? For once in my life, can you just act like a normal NFL team, for God's sake? Well, look on the bright side. The Guardians beat the Tigers in a Game 5, which saw Lane Thomas hit a grand slam home run on the best pitcher in baseball as they advanced to the ALCS for the first time since 2016 to face none other than the New York Yankees. But unfortunately for me, this is a Browns channel, so maybe one day we'll get a Browns win to talk about. Hey guys, Oliver here, aka UK Browns NFL, and this is my review of the Cleveland Browns 20-16 loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. So where do we go from here? Well, load up your mock draft simulators, do your jersey swaps of Shedeur Sanders in a Browns uniform, because the Browns are now 1-5. The season's looking pretty dire. I think it's more likely that I'm able to grow a real beard in the next 11 weeks than it is the Browns go 9-2, just to give themselves a chance of making the playoffs with 10 wins. A season that was billed as being arguably one of the most competitive in Browns history, to almost, essentially be over by week 6, is a massive disappointment, to say the least. It really, really is. I had a lot of faith in this team going into this season based off last year, and in just 6 weeks they've completely eroded any of that faith that I had in that team. Before we get into the game, let's address the elephant in the room. This offense is now reached levels that I didn't think I would ever see from an offense that is this expensive and has this much talent on it. This is some of the worst offensive football we've ever seen, which is saying something as Browns fans. We aren't shy to bad quarterback play and bad offensive play out of the team, but this is something else. I saw a stat yesterday that Deshaun Watson has thrown the most passes through a 6 games stretch of a season with the least amount of third downs completed. So you pair that on top with the fact that the Browns were 0-26 at one point on third down conversions. It's historical stuff. It's some of the worst quarterback play we've ever seen as Browns fans. It's some of the worst offensive play we've seen. Yes, the whole offense is a disaster. But as I keep saying, as I think most people have, the point that they've got to now, while we can recognise that, in the end of the day, it starts with the quarterback and it ends with the quarterback. And the quarterback has been not just bad, he's been beyond bad. Still yet to throw for over 200 yards in a game this season. The Browns are still yet to score over 20 points this season. And I know I've seen a lot of people arguing, they need to do more for the quarterback and this kind of stuff. And what more can they do? Hold the opposition to 12 points a game, and then maybe we have a chance of winning games. I don't think that's realistic thing to ask. You can point to the O-line. Yes, the O-line has been terrible. I'm the first person to say that. I was the first person to say in the off-season that I didn't think the O-line was as good as people were making it out to be. I think this O-line needs a complete revamp this off-season. But saying that, I've still seen quarterbacks deal with a bad offensive line. We saw Drake May yesterday in his first ever start in the NFL throw for 3 touchdowns behind, a line that has statistically been worse than the Browns line this year. So I don't really want to hear it at this point. And if I am talking to you here, I know that a lot of people are probably on the same line of thinking that I am now, but if you are in that group of people that thinks that we need to do more around the quarterback to help him, I will just say, what is the long-term plan for that? Are we going to essentially give him the benefit of the doubt this year because of the stuff around him, and then go into this off-season as another off-season where we're trying to build a new offense around the quarterback where we still have no idea if he's any good or not? And that's being polite, because I think a lot of us do have an idea if he's any good or not. Are we just going to waste that time again? I just don't see how that's a possibility. I just don't see how you can go into the off-season with that as your plan. I don't see how you can tell every other player on this team that is your plan. I think we all have to accept that, whether it's a big rebuild, a small rebuild, some form of a rebuild is needed, and there's no room for Deshaun Watson in that rebuild. So I think the quicker that people accept that, the quicker we'll be able to move on and plan for the future. I've made it very clear that yes, this Watson situation is a disaster, but it's not a nail in the coffin. There are ways out of this if done correctly, that doesn't, essentially completely cripple your team, and maybe within a year, 2, you're back to somewhat competing. That is a real possibility. But as I've said, that's kind of what I'm looking at now from this front office is, I have faith in Stefanski and Andrew Berry and what they've done so far. And I don't think that they both deserve to lose their jobs because the Watson situation and the acquisition has failed. But it's going to be about where they go from here and how they navigate out of this situation that will let me know whether or not I think they're the right people to be in charge going forward. I'm going to do a video this week, most likely, on this whole situation. I know I've only done my reviews and previews for the game so far, but I am working on other videos, other video ideas. Definitely looking to get guests on for another more light-hearted segment throughout the week, shall we say. That's in the works. But as I said, I am going to be working on a video about where we do go from here, and I will make my full kind of feelings known in that video. But I'd be remiss if I didn't start this Browns review without addressing the elephant in the room, which is just how bad this offense and how bad this quarterback have been. Moving on to the game itself, I do like to do a quick kind of recap on these games, and it is a review, so talk about it in some capacity. This game was quite frustrating. Those that are still checked in, I know a lot of people are checked out and are kind of numb to the way that this Browns season has gone so far, but for those that are kind of still checked in, this was a very frustrating game, a game that the Browns had multiple chances to win. As I said, another game where they were unable to score 20 points in a game. Browns had 244 yards to the Eagles' 372 yards. Browns only 144 yards passing to the Eagles' 256. But the Browns did have 100 yards rushing to the Eagles' 116. And I did say in my keys to victory that stopping the Eagles' ground game was one of those keys to victory. And I suppose before I get too much into this game, I do just want to give the defense a bit of credit that they deserve. This is the first week that any of my keys to victory were achieved. And I think the defense did achieve limiting the Eagles' ground game this week. Held them to 116 yards rushing on just 3.2 yards per carry. They held Saquon Barkley pretty much in check. But yeah, I think the defense did what they could in this game. They got the stops where they could. Granted, at the end, as bad as the offense has been, you'd like to see the defense give them one more chance and get a stop. They weren't able to do that. But I just think in the most part, the defense played their part and I think they definitely deserve a mention before I get too angry talking about the offense and the other side of this game, and forget to do so. But the game was pretty much went as most games have gone so far this season. The Browns get a 3-and-out to start on defense, and then the offense can't do anything. They can't move the ball at all. They can't get a third down. They consistently put themselves in third and long situations, which is of course not helping and contributing to the lack of third down conversions that they have. I think at one point in this game, after 8 third down attempts, the average yard to distance was 12 yards, and as most of us know, it starts at first and 10. So it just goes to show you kind of the difficult situations that they are putting themselves in. Browns defense was able to hold on for the first quarter. They were playing pretty well, as I mentioned. The game was opened up with a Jake Elliott 49-yard field goal to start the second quarter. Browns offense, again, not really able to do anything, not able to move the ball. Eagles then go and get a touchdown off of a AJ. That's it. It's an AJ Brown touchdown. So I'm sorry, defense. You deserve even more credit, because I, for some reason, thought it was a Saquon Barkley touchdown, but no, it was an AJ Brown touchdown. 22-yard pass from Jalen Hurts. Martin Emerson, who, it's just crazy to me how we've got here. Coming off of a season which, arguably a Pro Bowl season from Emerson, a season which myself, and I'm sure a lot of Browns fans were arguing that he's the best second option at corner in the league, and this season he has really regressed, as shown with this touchdown. He got completely burned off the line by AJ Brown, who was able to run straight past him and catch the touchdown. So that put the score to 10-0. With 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. And unfortunately for most Browns fans, the way this season has gone, you're down 2 scores at that point. You don't really have any faith that you can come back and win this game. The way that the offense has been playing, you just can't really see them coming back from 2 scores. But they did get a little bit of a rally at the end of the second quarter, just before the half. They managed to get into field goal range, which Dustin Hopkins converted a 43-yard field goal. And then the biggest play of the game for the Browns, Myles Garrett, for the second year in a row, jumps over the line and blocks a field goal. It was then recovered by Rodney McLeod, who returned it for a 50-yard touchdown to tie the game at 10-10, just going into the half. So, you've got a situation there where you could potentially go down 14 if you don't get the stop. You get the stop. You then force them into a field goal. You block that field goal, score the return, and it's now 10-10. So, huge swing in this game, a massive momentum swing in this game. Previous Browns teams would have probably taken this momentum and gone and won the game. But unfortunately, this Browns team wasn't able to do that. I think it is quite funny that Rodney McLeod, with that 50-yard touchdown return, is now our joint top touchdown scorer this year with 2 touchdowns, him and Amari Cooper. He is a safety, not an offensive player. So if anything goes to show you how bad this offense has been this year, that's certainly one of them. And, just quickly on Myles, I saw some ridiculous tweets the past week, even entertaining the idea of trading Myles Garrett. Let me just make it clear, no draft capital that you could get back in a trade would ever compensate for trading Myles Garrett. You're not going to find another Myles Garrett in the draft, whether you trade him for 3 first-round picks or 20 first-round picks. You are not going to find another Myles Garrett. He is the best player I have ever seen wear brown and orange, and he probably will be the best player I ever will see wear brown and orange. So if you are someone that even came into your mind, let alone that you tweeted it and said it out loud, I'm sorry, but we live on 2 different worlds, because I don't understand how you could even process that. I it's not even something that I'd consider even thinking about. Myles Garrett is the Cleveland Browns. He has provided, some of the only joy that we've had here since he's been drafted. You don't trade away first ballot Hall of Famers and players that are, arguably the best at their position of their generation. You don't do that. But moving on to the second half, kind of similar to the first half, it was a bit of a slugfest. The offense was able to move the ball a little bit better. I know a lot of people are going to point to Deshaun Watson's stat line in this second half, but in the end of the day, that's what you're using as a defense. A couple of screen passes completed and a little bit better output, then you're kind of clutching at straws. But credit where credit is due. He did play better in that second half. It unfortunately wasn't able to equate to much. Most of the drives were getting stalled out. The Eagles got a field goal in the third quarter to go up 13-10. So we go into the fourth quarter down 3. Dustin Hopkins makes another 49-yard field goal to tie the game at 13-13. But he unfortunately then goes on to miss a field goal, chance to take the lead in this game, and he was unable to convert that. And then not long after, Devonta Smith with a 45-yard touchdown kind of took the mood out of this game. You thought maybe they'd have a chance, maybe if the offense can get something going. But, that put them up 7. And, with the way this game was going and how they were kind of only able to settle for field goals on the offensive side of it, it didn't bring you too much confidence. But the offense did move the ball a bit. But as it seems to be through these first 6 weeks, any time that the offense can get any form of consistent play, it's just negated by penalties and mistakes, especially on that offensive line, which we saw time and time again. This was the second week in a row where the Browns had the ball on 1st and goal within the opponent's 5-yard line and had to settle for a field goal because penalties ended up setting them back so much. So inexcusable stuff as out of the offense, inexcusable stuff still when it comes to the discipline of this team. The Browns were able to get a field goal near the end of this game. I think there was 4 minutes left after they kicked the field goal. I know some people are arguing, well, why kick the field goal there when you still need a touchdown anyway? I think with the way this defense was playing, I don't think that's the worst decision in the world. You get yes, you still need a touchdown, but now a touchdown, wins you the game. So I'm not too worked up about that decision, but it turned out, being the wrong decision because they were unable to get the ball back. The Eagles were able to run out the clock, which, they finished off with a 20-plus yard pass over the top to A.J. Brown to get the first down, used the Browns' last timeout, and they were able to kneel the ball down. So that's how the game went. As I said, I had my 3 keys to victory, which the first one was limiting the Eagles' ground game, which, as I said, was actually the first key to victory that they've been able to achieve this year. I think the Browns defense did limit the Eagles' ground game. They did limit Saquon Barkley, held them to under 3.5 yards per carry on their rush attempts. But unfortunately, the reason it's 3 keys to victory is because it's 3 things that you want to do together. Complementary football is the most important thing, and they were unable to achieve those other things. I joked for the Browns to play like an actual NFL offense, but it unfortunately doesn't even look like a joke because they genuinely are playing like a team that is just not even a functional NFL offense. As I said, the statistics are so damning. Some of the stats that we've seen come out of this game are historically bad. So yeah, they didn't even come close to achieving that. And then finally, as it's been every week, because of the way this Browns season has gone, not beat yourselves. And as I mentioned, they continue to beat themselves again for the 6th week in a row, what it seems like now. As I mentioned, more penalties, you get you get first and goal on the 3-yard line, and then you get backed up to, you know, fourth and goal on the 15 because of penalties. It's just not good enough. It's inexcusable. You know, as I've made it clear, I do like Kevin Stefanski. I do have faith in him, but this is becoming ridiculous. Something that he does need to start answering him for, because we're averaging, I think, 9 penalties a game. It's insane. It's inexcusable, and it cannot happen going forward. Moving on from this game, I suppose, where do we go from here? As I said, we're 1-5. I don't blame people for loading up the mock draft simulators and doing the jersey swaps of their favorite prospect. Completely understandable. I think it's entirely unrealistic to expect this team to mount any form of a challenge for the playoffs this year. So where do we go from here? I think, you know, unfortunately for most Browns fans, Kevin has insisted that Watson is still the starter. I think most of us are wary of what the crowd is going to be like this upcoming week against Cincinnati, with Deshaun Watson still being the starter. For me personally, while I don't think a quarterback change does anything in terms of the win-loss column, I think it helps you evaluate the rest of the offense, because at the minute with the quarterback play, and I mean, yes, as I keep saying, the whole offense has been bad, but with how bad the quarterback play has been, it's hard to evaluate the rest of the offense. It's hard to evaluate the wide receivers, the running backs, and the offensive line. So to be honest, at this point, the only reason I want a quarterback change is so I can evaluate this offense. I can evaluate these players and these position groups, so we can kind of have an idea of, you know, what guys we want to keep and what guys we don't want to keep, and what we want to do going forward next year, when we you know, inevitably move on from Watson and install the new era of this regime. So yeah, I would like to see a quarterback change. It's obviously not going to happen yet. Stefanski has made that clear. One thing I will give them the slight benefit of the doubt on is that, you know, we all want Watson benched, but I think it's important to note that once they do bench Watson, that is it. That's his Browns career done. So I think until you have everything in place ready to essentially pay him to sit at home, and you know 100% that he is not your guy, which I know the rest of us know, but until they know that, and as I said, they have the pieces in place to essentially pay him to sit at home, that they're not going to do that. So it is important to remember that. Browns have got 3 home games coming up. They have a chance to somewhat make this season respectable, I suppose. The one good thing coming out of this week, it is expected that Nick Chubb will return next week against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's unfortunate that Nick Chubb's return comes in what will probably be one of the most hostile Browns home crowds in recent memory. But as much as they're booing Watson and this offense, but I know for a fact that the minute that Chubb steps on that pitch, the minute that Chubb, you know, takes a carry, those boos will be replaced by cheers. They might even be replaced by tears by some people. It is a monumental moment as a Browns fan. For me personally, next Sunday is my birthday. You know, what better birthday present than to see my favourite Browns player make his return from just a completely devastating injury that he suffered last year. It's going to be an emotional moment for me. It's something that I won't let, you know, how bad this Browns season has been and how bad this Browns offense has been. I'm not going to let that take that away from me and take that moment away from me. So that is something that I am definitely looking forward to next week. But as I said, you know, it's hard after these losses to come on here and you know, focus on the game and try and keep this to just talking about how the game went. You know, it's hard to not let your mind and let your emotions kind of creep into how this season is going as a whole. I've tried to keep it somewhat focused around the game. As I've said multiple times now, I am going to be doing a video of my feelings of the Deshaun Watson experiment, and where we go from there in terms of moving on from him. So that's where I will put my full thoughts on this situation in. But as I said, it's hard to not talk about this game and not let some of those thoughts creep in. So yeah, Browns are 1-5. The season's about as bad as it gets. But you've got 3 home games coming up to, make this season respectable. Show that you're not as bad as you have been. Because as bad as the Browns have been this year, their roster on paper, it's incredible how they can be this bad. So you've got 3 home games to go and prove that, you are at least a respectable team. But I think I think you would all know that I'm lying to you if I was sitting here and saying, no, it's okay. They've still got a chance to save the season. Because like I said, to even get to 10 wins, you'd have to go 9-2 over the next 11 weeks. And with some of the teams and some of the games, coming up on this schedule, that seems like an impossible task. But I never like to finish on a sour note with these videos. I like to finish on somewhat of a positive note. And as I said, we hopefully will get to see the Nick Chubb return this weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's against the team that, we've had their number since Kevin Stefanski has been here, since they drafted Joe Burrow. We all know that the Browns are 5-1 against Joe Burrow. So maybe in Nick Chubb's return, they can surprise a lot of people and get a win out of that. But as well as that, to finish on even more good news, the Cleveland Guardians, as you all know, as I said at the start, they beat the Detroit Tigers in the ALDS. They advance now to the ALCS to play the Yankees. That starts tonight as of recording, and probably as of release of this video. So I'm really looking forward to that. I picked a great week to have a few days off work. Just happened to coincide with these first few games in the ALCS. So looking forward to those games. As I said, guys, keep your eyes peeled on my channel. Whilst these videos at the minute have just been previews and reviews, I am working on other video ideas. As I said, working on a segment idea to bring guests on just to talk, Browns football with those guys in a more light-hearted way, and as well as working on a video kind of summing up my thoughts on the Browns experiment with Deshaun Watson as a whole and where they go from now. So please keep an eye out on my channel. I appreciate everyone for the support that they've showed me so far. It's been really amazing to see the comments and the views that I've got on just something that I've decided to start a couple of weeks ago. It brings me a load of joy, even with how bad the Browns season has been, just to see Browns fans come together within a community. I say it every video. That's all I'm trying to do here is build a community of Browns fans that I can interact with. If I only get to talk to one Browns fan a day, I'm happy, because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. So as always, guys, please like this video, drop me a subscribe. You can check the links in the description to see where you can follow me and support the channel. And hopefully we get some more positive Browns stuff to talk about in the coming weeks, guys. But as always, go Browns, and especially go Guardians.